you've been as frustrated and overwhelmed as I am over all of these AI tools and programs popping up almost on a not even a daily basis, but on an hourly basis. When I first started learning about AI, I engulfed myself in it. I immersed myself in it. And I signed up for all of these subscriptions. And every day in my email, I have to delete like 10 or 15 emails because I got so tired of reading about all the new, gizmos and things that are going to eat up my time. I am a nerd when it comes to all of these programs, so I can go into a deep black hole and it winds up wasting my time. So being an accountant and very, very time sensitive, I'm very cognizant of the amount of time and effort I spend on these programs. And also, making sure that all the programs that I use, and I use a lot of them, are beneficial to my business. And tonight, I'm going to delve into another program, believe it or not, that I checked it out. I wasn't that impressed with it. I didn't understand it, to be honest with you. I didn't want to spend the time, trying to figure it out. So I put it on the shelf. And then recently, I met this very, very interesting, handsome gentleman in my podcast group, and we are members of a very great podcast mastermind. And what transpired is what's supposed to transpire in these mastermind groups. We made a connection. He mentioned this program, which I'll let him get into. He's definitely an expert on the topic. He got my attention, and it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Jerry. Jerry, I don't want to mince your last name, so you want to help me out here?
Do you want me to say it or do you want me to mince it? You weren't clear. No, it's Jerry
Uh,
Goddard.
well, Jerry, what is it?
Goddard.
Goddard.
Yes.
Okay, so that's embedded in my brain now. And so I don't want to keep everybody hanging. The program that I'm talking about is called Google Notebook. Is it LM or LLM?
LM.
LM. Google Notebook LM. And like I said, I'm a big fan of Google. I'm on Google Workspace. I pay them a lot of money to use that. So it seemed like a natural fit. And like I said, Jerry, I just got, I didn't want to get sucked into the black hole. But what was it, last week or the week before, you mentioned it about how powerful it is. And again, I put it on the side. I said, I'm going to wait until Jerry, sets me straight on this. And just before the the meeting tonight, I did some research on. So I used ChatGPT. I said, "Tell me all about this program." Then I did the same thing with Gemini, which is the Google AI, and they both came out with basically the same thing. And I'm like, okay, I think this is for me, but I'm going to let you fill in the gaps. So, why don't you start by telling people a little bit about you and why they should listen to you, and then we'll get into the whole Google LM thing.
Sure. First of all, no one should ever listen to me. I am a horrible influence. In all seriousness, my name is Jerry Goddard. I'm a serial entrepreneur in the technology, cybersecurity, and military intelligence space. Former Marine SIG-Inter. That was really my introduction to technology many, many moons ago. From there, I really got to the people side of the business, again, focused on technology. So I built a MuleSoft consulting company. MuleSoft's an API company. And for those of you that aren't super techie, APIs are the piece of software that connects other pieces of software. Built that up to 9 offices in 3 countries and then sold it. Then since then, I started my current company, Redbeard Solutions. We basically help technology services companies to do what we did at Apicera, which is build world-class companies that they can sell or grow to crazy big sizes. Like everybody else in the last couple of years, I got kind of swept up in the AI maelstrom. I think it's going to be a really big revolution. Like most, that's not exactly a hot take. Where my hot take is, though, and I just want to touch on something Joe said earlier, where my hot take is, I think most, not all, but most AI products on the market right now aren't ready for prime time yet. I think they're mostly hype. For those of us that have gray in their beards, you might remember in the late 90s when the internet was just getting off the ground and most of what you saw there was kind of hot garbage. I feel that way about AI now. I think I'm waiting for the big bust and consolidation cycle where the real quality shines through. And one thing I want to mention, Joe, that you talked about. So, Joe, and I hope we haven't fallen this risk. As small business people, it's really easy to get sucked up in a million different tools. If I could give one piece of advice before we even talk about this one particular product, pick one platform, learn it really well, and then decide if that's the path you want to go down. Because if you learn one platform really well, it will give you a foundation to judge other platforms off of. And unless you're an AI technologist, you don't need to master Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, Manus, etc. You just need one. And frankly, I picked Google for no more scientific reason than I'm already paying for it. My company uses Workspace. I'm already paying the subscription. So I'm like, why not learn Gemini, Gemini Gems, the AI Studio, and of course, NotebookLM.
Yes. So, you mentioned about small businesses, and I forgot to mention that, the name of this podcast is How to Win Big at Business. And what we do, Jerry, is we work with the whole idea of this podcast is to target self-employed professionals they're confused, they don't have any time, they're making all kinds of mistakes. I don't know about you, but I've been there, done that too many times. As an accountant, I've worked with thousands of business owners, and I said, we need help because it's lonely being a self-employed professional. Okay, especially if you're like me working from home. I've been a remote worker for over 20 years. So, it's thank God for technology. I'm in the Philippines right now. I don't even know where you are, but you're in the United States somewhere. We're halfway around the world. So I think we're both, leveraging technology as best that we can. But I believe you hit the nail on the head. It's overwhelming all the programs that are out there. And I agree with you, Master One. Unfortunately, when I got into this, ChatGPT, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but ChatGPT was like far and above ahead of everybody, including Google. So I
Very much.
learned that. I dabbled in Gemini, I dabbled in Claude, but I always, because I know it, and I got a lot invested in ChatGPT, but I'm also invested in Google. So tell me so you're already married to Google, right? You're already paying them a lot of money like I am, and you're using Gemini. And how long ago did Notebook LM come on board?
I believe it's less than a year. I've only started using it several months ago, and it's been leaping forward. So interesting point. OpenAI by far was the industry leader. Gemini has really closed the gap in productivity, specifically Notebook LM and Gemini Gems, and Claude has crushed their coding capabilities. So OpenAI,
Yeah.
as is often the case in technology, they got first release benefit, and then they lagged behind now.
Yeah. So let's get into, I really want to get into exactly how this program is different from ChatGPT, from Gemini, from Claude. I've also looked at Copilot, and I'm like that. It took me about 15 minutes to realize I'm like, no, this ain't gonna work for me.
Flippy is the
But when
enemy.
I first looked at LM, I was like, well, this just looks like another AI program. So what makes it different And more importantly, how are self-employed professionals going to incorporate this to make their businesses more efficient, more streamlined?
Great question. So, two-part answer. You asked a question in the beginning. You said, is it Notebook LM or LLM? And that question is the genesis of the answer. A Google Gemini or an OpenAI is what's called an LLM, a large language model. It trains on all the internet and our copyrighted materials and generates its body of knowledge that it draws its answers from. Notebook LM works conceptually the same way, but it only draws from the knowledge you feed it. And that's all the difference in the world. So, for example, I'm an author. I wrote that book right there, Destination Employer. It talks about my specific methodology on how I go to market, and my company does what it does. There is an enormous amount of generic information similar to that on the market. So when I'm training my team, if I just used an LLM, they would get generic market information. But by opening Notebook LM, inserting a copy of my book, inserting all of the YouTube and podcast episodes that I've done, inserting material I've made, when I generate answers, it is only pulling from my personal methodology, not the generic internet stuff. And that's all the difference in the world.
So, and that, when I just did my 3 minutes of research before, starting this podcast, that hit me because I know, like with ChatGPT, I changed the format, the settings from like fast to deep thinking, and I'm like, before it was amazing. It would got within it almost knew the answer before I hit enter. Now with deep thinking, it's like I got to sit here waiting, and I'm impatient. But it's what you said. It's pulling information from everywhere, right? And that's time consuming. So I think what you're saying is this is only going to go by stuff that you're giving it.
Yes, correct. So
Correct?
I literally, when you open Notebook LM, there's a add files tab on the left. You attach the files or websites you want it to pull data from, and that's all it pulls data from. Now, the use case I gave is essentially creating a download of my methodology for my team. Here's another use case to illustrate. Let's say that you need to learn something. Doesn't matter what. Let's say you want to learn about how to code in Python or how to do taxes in Manila, or it doesn't matter what the topic is. You could, so that you don't accidentally get bad information, you could include only the sites you want that to draw information from. And now when you're asking it questions, it's only giving you answers from those places. So you have to be much less concerned about it making mistakes or generating false positives. Additionally, I didn't talk about this at all, is it has an output window as well. It can output as flashcards so you can test yourself. It can output as quizzes so you can test yourself. It can output as slideshows, as PDFs. You can even use it to build a website off of your material.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to that because so I know a little bit about websites. I built my own, unfortunately, that were terrible. But things like, I'm like, okay, so I did just to see what it was like. I used some program and it gave me like the HTML code, and then I had to copy it, and I'm like, this is beyond my pay grade. So when you tell me it's going to do a website, is it going to actually do the website, or is it going to give you the code?
Great question. So I only did it once to test it on the weekend when I was figuring it out. And it works. So one other quick note, you can use Notebook LM with other tools. I just use it with Google's own, but you can attach it to things like Canva and other tools for other features. I have not done that. But having said that, using Notebook's tool, it built the entire website. But in order for you to host it, you have to download the code and re-upload it into your into wherever your hosting company is. It doesn't do that part for you. but it downloads the code. You can open up in your browser so you can see what the website looks like, make sure it works. Then you copy that into your hosting company, and
So you don't necessarily need to be an expert in HTML code.
it
Right. Okay.
literally gives you every step to take. It tells you, okay, when you're in your WordPress file, this is where you put it. This is how you do it. It gives you every single step. Again, full disclosure, cool. I was using that as an example, and I've only done it once, but it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So I have a million questions going through my head. So just, I might bounce around a little, but
I'll answer
eventually the
every
way my
11th
brain
one.
works. So I know in ChatGPT, because this is something that and this is why I'm married to it. I have a lot of data in this. So in ChatGPT, you can do project, which I don't know if they're the same as gems in Google, but in project, so I could feed it all of my information, just like you just said, okay, with the Google LM. So how is Google LM different than what ChatGPT is with the projects?
I've not used projects, so let me ask this question back, and maybe together we can answer it. So the whole magic of NotebookLM is when you put stuff in the input file, that's the only place it will draw data from. And your export options are not limitless, but there are documents, slides, flashcards, quizzes, websites, all sorts of things. So that's how it works. Does ChatGPT projects work that way?
No, I wish it did. It and to be honest with you, a lot of times it's frustrating because it says, and sometimes I don't know if this ever happened to you, but it's almost like sometimes I'm arguing with it. It'll tell me, "Oh, I'm not able to produce a PDF." And I'm like, "You just did a PDF for me. What are you, stupid?" And
Ironically, I'm working with a coach, and she sent me custom GPTs, and I had to buy a paid subscription to use them. And I did just that. The first one I did, and it said, I said, can I generate a PDF? And it did, and that was it. She sent me the second one. I did the exact same thing and got the exact same result you described. I can't do that. And then after it said it couldn't do it, it came back and said, would you like me to generate a clean PDF? And I was like,
oh yeah, it gets frustrating because it's like, you have time invested. I'm like, listen, I just gave you all the instructions, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, another thing that is bad about, I don't know. So I basically focused on ChatGPT. And so many times I found mistakes. And, I'm doing tax research. So I'm like, you can't afford to make mistakes, right? One time it gave me information based on 2024 taxes. And I had to tell it, I'm like, listen, this is for 2025. Remember the big beautiful bill? And then it apologizes. So what I do is I'll do the research in that, and then I'll actually go into Gemini and Perplexity just to verify it. Okay. So it's, what do they call it? Hallucinations.
Yeah, when I was
It'll
in the
make
Marines,
stuff up.
when I was in the Marines, I was in signals intelligence, and we had a motto: trust but verify. The thing to remember about all GPTs, all large language models, is that at their core, all they are is prediction engines. So they go out and search for whatever, and then they pull up what they think the answer will be based on your question. And when it gets it wrong, that's called a hallucination. So you're exactly right. On anything critical, you need to check your work. One quick note, and this is a related tangent. When this whole AI thing started, I had the opportunity to speak to an AI researcher, and she gave me the best advice, and I've followed it since then. She said, what she does, part of her job is helping small businesses get AI programs off the ground. She said the number one problem she sees is that business owners give AI too much autonomy too soon. She said that's a losing strategy. She said the way to treat AI is to treat it like a gifted intern, somebody you see potential in, but they haven't yet earned your trust. She said, if you keep that
Wow.
mentality, you won't go wrong.
I loved it. And that quote, trust but verify, I always didn't Ronald Reagan say that? Or did he take
Um,
it from someone?
yeah, I have no idea. So in SIGINT, it was that we had two mottos, trust but verify. And the second one was, in God we trust, all others we monitor.
Okay. And in what was the X-Files, it was trust no one.
Exactly.
But
Huge
yeah.
X-Files fan, by the
So
way.
okay, going back to some of the questions I had in my mind. So you mentioned about, you can give it YouTube and website. Can you actually just drop the links in there
Yeah.
and it'll pull the data?
Yep.
Really?
There's even, and I haven't used it, but there's even a Chrome extension where you can put whole YouTube channels in it. So
Oh
let's
my
say I
God.
was writing a paper on Casey Neistat. I could literally put his entire channel there, and everything I generated would only come from that specific YouTube channel.
Oh my God. Because I have a couple of YouTube channels, and one of them I have like close to 700 videos. And I'm thinking right now, I'm like, okay, how am I going to transcribe all those videos and get them into my Google LM?
Are you familiar with the cybersecurity term white hat and black hat?
I've heard it, but
Basically,
no,
a
unless,
white hat hacker is somebody who works for you. A black hat hacker is somebody trying to break into your system. A bit of a black hat trick you can use NotebookLM for is competitor research. So you can put all of your competitors' info in there and then ask it questions. One of the things, I've got a YouTube creator friend, is he'll put in a competitor's channel and then look for keywords and then use those to make videos from.
wow, that's huge. That's huge. But now, if you do that, aren't you pulling info from somewhere else and it's not yours?
So I gave the example of using your info, but the because that's the most common use case. But much like the learning example, the point is it only goes to the place you sent it. So if I wanted to learn, about something, I put only a source I trust there, so I'm not getting a bunch of generic internet garbage. If I want to go to learn about a specific competitor, I put only their website or only their white paper or case study or whatever there. Now it's only getting info from that source. So it's not about it being only yours. It's about targeting its source to only locations you chose.
Okay. So now question, is it just you only have one notebook or you can have as
Make a
many as
million
you
of them.
want?
Just like any other
Really?
document, you name the notebook.
So I could have, for argument's sake, so I'm an accountant, so I want so one of the things we do is we do entity setup and research for all the states, okay? 50 states, we have clients all over the country, also Virgin Islands. We get clients that are, actually foreign foreign citizens, South Africa, the Philippines, and they have to set up an LLC in the United States. Uh, so I could potentially like put in all the Secretary of State websites, right? The IRS, all the state income tax websites. Am I right? And just use that for my tax research.
Yeah, you could do it. Again, I am not a tax guy. What you guys do is sorcery as far as I'm concerned. But you could parse that two different ways that come to mind. You could make state specific ones. So like Massachusetts, where I live, it could be just wherever you draw from Massachusetts. Another thing
Right.
you could do is, heck, you could do it down to the municipal level. Like I know in New York that there's laws specific to New York City. So maybe you only do one for New York City. Another way you could do it is entity specific. So you could say to yourself, this client's in Johannesburg, South Africa. They need to set up an LLC in Maryland. What data is relevant to that? And then name that notebook, XYZ LLC, and then put only data relevant to that. So you can make a client specific notebook.
So you could niche it down to just about anything.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm sorry,
So
go ahead.
I'll say, imagine it's your personal library courier. I gave some use cases, but the thing to remember is it the magic is it only goes where you send it. So knowing that, you can make very, very specific notebooks. Like I've got one that's internal to my team. So it has all of it's got my book, it's got my channels, it's got our training, it's got all that stuff. I've got one that's client facing. It's got my book, it's got my website, it's got some of my training, it's got my sales and marketing info. So when I'm generating data from that, it generates a more client flavored thing. So again, it's what you put in it.
Wow. So I'm thinking like I met this guy from Singapore. He taught us in the Philippines and shows them how to set up a franchise using Singapore laws. So I'm thinking, man, I could show this guy how like all the different businesses, because you got all different kinds of businesses that you can franchise, right? So he can go to them and say, hey, this is how you can franchise your hot dog stand, right? And just give them the whole, oh man, my head is spinning. So, I'm thinking, so like for my business, and it took us years, literally, and you could relate to this, set up standard operating procedures,
Yes.
onboarding for clients, onboarding for new team members, onboarding for interns, training manuals. And I'm like, oh my, because we have so many documents and manuals. I'm thinking, man, I could just feed all this into, the LM and just say update it, make them all sync. Because just, updating them, just one thing, like we changed our CRM. We were using this program called Kartra, and then we moved to Go High Level. Oh my God, the ripple effect. It cost us
I know.
so much man hours.
Yeah, certainly. And again, you mentioned onboarding clients. So you put all the data relevant there. You can generate guides, you can generate whatever for it. Onboarding team members, you put in whatever they need to be skilled at. You can generate quizzes for them. You can generate all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
One other thing I didn't touch on at all, and this will blow your mind as a podcaster. One of the outputs is a podcast style thing with two people talking about your whatever it is you put in there, and you pick the voices. So you literally can have that generate, and it's AI. I wouldn't post it as content, but for internal consumption, you get two talking heads. They look pretty decent, and they talk about your thing.
Wow. Yeah, we do that. We have a program called Hey Jen, and we actually
Same
made
concept.
my video guy made a baby Joe. It's me as a baby with glasses and a goatee, and it's hilarious. So I use it for some things, but yeah, that's a whole nother thing. It gets kind of strange,
It's not
but
as it's not as sharp as Hey Jen. Hey Jen is very specific, but I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know this is true, but one of the cool things about Notebook LM is you can use other exports. I'd mentioned Canva, for example. So it wouldn't surprise me if you could connect it to Hey Jen and use it as the input for those.
wow. Yeah, it's really mind-boggling. So let me ask you this, because one of the benefits of doing a podcast like this is I get to pick people's brains for my own benefit, right?
Sure.
So and I'm sure this is on everybody's mind. How do you, in your, daily, whatever you do, how does somebody like you stay up to date with all of these programs? How do you not get sucked into the black hole?
I think that the rate of change that humanity has experienced right now is faster than any other point in human history. And being a professional in today's day and age requires continuous education. I'm not a big consumer of television. I read endlessly. I stay plugged in and I listen to when my colleagues talk, most especially, frankly, my younger colleagues. What are they doing? What are they seeing? I work a lot with the US government in classified technology and intelligence space. So I, by necessity, stay kind of, close to what's changing. And there's three things that the US government has been pushing for the last 2 years: agentic AI, or generative AI, zero trust cybersecurity, and quantum computing. So I stay on the cutting edge of those as best I can.
Okay, so now you hit something that I'm like totally beyond it's like in a whole nother stratosphere, quantum computing. How does that relate to AI? And is that something that we, as small business owners, that we should be like spending time on?
No, on the small business owners. So quantum computing at present right now only works in super, super, super cold environments, super stable. It's nothing we're going to touch in the short term. It's not
Okay.
in any way directly related to AI, but here's where it's crazy. Quantum computing is about 10,000 times faster than standard computing. So
Oh
what
my
that
God.
means is you hear all this talk about ASI, artificial superintelligence. When AI and quantum computing touch, that changes the world forever. Because
That's
imagine
where
AI now working 10,000 times faster.
it's that's where we're in Terminator territory.
Yeah, that's when Skynet is born. That or the Matrix, I don't know which.
Yeah, but and what was the third one you said? You said there
Zero
were
trust
three?
cybersecurity.
Okay, is that something that we should be aware of?
Well, probably a conversation all on its own, but cybersecurity is something that small business people should be paying a lot more attention than they do. We always hear about these big ransomware attacks on hospitals and megacorps and data breaches on these giant retail companies. But the reality is, small business people get hit more often because we're infinitely easier targets.
Oh, I learned that the hard way. Once I
Great
started,
example.
yeah, once I started really getting out there on social media, getting big followings, uh, all of a sudden, like I got hacked a bunch of times. My ex account got hacked and I couldn't get it back. My credit cards got stolen. Okay, I can't tell you how many credit cards I had to cancel. I get a text message, hey, did you just charge $6,500 at the store in Hong Kong? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, yeah, and we had to up because I'm an accountant, I have people's personal information, date of birth, social security
Yeah,
number. So, accountants are targets,
of course.
big targets. So, we institute all of these security measures, double and triple authorizations. We have one of the things in our company is that listen, if you're using a computer at home, it's got to be dedicated to us. You can't have other people like logging in and stuff. It's kind of scary because it's almost like it's gotten easier for the criminals to hack into us, right?
Yeah. So super basics first. Don't reuse passwords. Use long or here. This advice isn't new, but it doesn't get enough attention. Passwords aren't great. Passphrases are significantly better. So, for example, something you can remember, and I'm making this up, but 11 red rabbits running. 11 red rabbits running, capitalize, all the vowels or capitalize all the first letters of that sentence. And if you put a question mark and exclamation point at the end, now you've got like 20 something characters. Nobody's brute force hacking that. So
Really?
pass phrases are better. And you can make them long because they're memorable. Joe has a goatee and black glasses. That's a huge password, but it's memorable, so it'll stick in your head. So things like that are more useful. So that's the second thing. Number 3, multiple factor authorization. It's a pain in the butt, but it's necessary. And number 4, like you said, especially as business owners, be careful with BYOD policies. Bring your own device. That's a risk. So in a former life, I was COO of a custom software development company, and one of our clients built airframe harnesses. They built the wireframes for airplanes, and one of their clients was the U.S. government. They actually made the wire harnesses for Air Force One. Well, they got snatched up in a ransomware thing because of their government work. The FBI was there that day, and every
Wow.
one of our consultants whose laptop, iPad, or cell phone was on their Wi-Fi network, they had to take it and wipe it.
Wow.
So be
You know, and
mindful of that.
yeah, I know this has nothing to do with the Google LM, but this is important, especially for small business owners.
Well,
Two things
I'll circle it back for you, Joe. I've been in this space for quite some time now, about 30 years. Cybersecurity has always been a tete between the good guys and the bad guys. AI has changed the story because, number one, you need fewer skills as a bad guy. That AI can do a lot of the things that you had to learn how to do before. Number two, one of the things that AI is best at is research and pattern recognition. It happened about a month or two ago, but somebody used an LLM to find 0-day vulnerabilities in a bunch of common software, which means that anybody can hack those things. So be
wow.
mindful. AI made cybersecurity a harder thing.
Yeah. Just 2 points that I think would be beneficial to people. Number one, and believe it or not, my girlfriend told me, and I didn't listen to her. The public Wi-Fi is totally out. Don't ever log into a public Wi-Fi. I learned that was one of the ways that they got my credit card info. The other thing, I get a call from my bank. Somebody hacked into my bank account. Okay. And they were like, "Don't you have double or," and I was like, "Yeah, how?" And I get a text message and they were like, "No, get an authenticator." So now I use an authenticator for everything. So apparently the hackers could get into your phone and get I don't know how they do it, but that's how they got my X account too, because I'm like, how did they get it? I'm supposed to get a text message. So, nothing's foolproof. But yeah, and it's a pain in the neck. You got to constantly, change your password. My tax program, it forces you to change it every month. And I hate it, but then I'm like, you know what? I hate it, but it's sort of like, you know,
You hate it less than losing everything.
right. Yeah, the time that you got to spend trying to recover everything. Okay, so like I said, we're over 30 minutes. We're coming out 45 minutes. This has been great. I believe, I know that you gave me plenty of valuable information. I can't wait. As soon as we're off here, I'm going to start playing with Google LM. I'm going to go down that black hole. I'll keep you posted. We talked about the cybersecurity, which is very important. So, how do people reach out to you? Do you want people to reach out to you, number one? And how do they connect with you?
Probably the easiest thing is LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. My profile is Jerry Goddard. I'm easy to find. I also have a YouTube channel, Jerry Goddard and Business Mastery. You can find me there, but LinkedIn's probably the easiest. If you Google my name, Jerry Goddard, I'm very, very easy to find.
So
I've got a best-selling
how do you
book. I've been
spell that? I know Jerry is Gerry. Jerry's one of those names where it could be J, it could be G. So
yeah.
how do you
So
spell your last?
Goddard, Gad is in Delta, Oury. Yeah, Jerry is short for Gerard. I'm French Canadian, my family, so I just go by Jerry. And all my Indian
Yeah,
friends call me Gary. They give it a hard G, which is always funny.
that's funny. That's funny. Now you also have a podcast,
Yeah,
right?
business
That's how we
mastery
met.
for startups and scale ups.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Business mastery for startups and scale ups.
Okay, and who should listen to that?
Really, any founder or founding team that is looking to get to the next level in their business. So most of our audience is in technology and professional services, but we're not limited to that at all.
But now these are companies. So you say startup. To me, a startup is somebody that just woke up and decided to start a business and they have no capital. All they have is the greatest idea since sliced bread. When you say startup, these are actually people that are in business, correct?
First of all, sliced bread, highly overrated. Second of all, you can be anything from 2 or 3 people to $100 million. Once you get past
Really?
$100 million, you've got systems and processes in place. Probably our show isn't for you.
Okay. So I'm way beyond 2 or 3 people. So I think I'm going to subscribe to your podcast. I'm gonna plug into your YouTube channel. Unfortunately, I got banned from LinkedIn, and they won't even tell me why. I think because when I got all, wrapped up in Chat GPT, I was sharing my GPTs on LinkedIn because I'm like, I've been on here for 15 years. I got like 30,000 followers. And so
Did you
yeah,
use any automation in your outreach or responses? Because that'll bounce you quick.
never. Everything I did was organic. I never used any kind of bots. I don't honestly, I don't even know how to use those to go on social media.
It's
But it
probably
is
for
what
the
it is.
best. They're pretty lousy.
Yeah. So yeah, you want to know something? I said, you know what? Everything happens for a reason, so I'll just focus on some other platforms. Now I'm in Facebook, Threads, and Instagram because they're all owned by me. But I learned, and I'm like, I'm not fully like, I didn't put everything in that basket. I'm like, okay, what if I get banned, God forbid, on that platform? So anyway, Jerry, this has been great. Uh, I'll definitely have you on again. I'm sure there's a lot of
Awesome.
other topics we can talk about. And that's our story, folks. We're sticking with it. God bless. And till next time.